everybody, it's Julie the Whippy Chick, and today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on this really cute shawl that I made. I get lots of compliments on this whenever I wear it, and that always makes me feel so good. I will say that the real star of this show is the yarn. The yarn is what makes this project, and if I can remember which yarn this is, I will put it in the description box below, and I'll actually add a picture as well. I bought this at a local yarn store several years ago, so I'm not exactly sure what it is. It is a really cute shawl though. I did put this really cute tassel in the middle of the back of it. And it's made really honestly with a very simple stitch called corner to corner. So if you've done corner to corner before, you probably don't even need to watch the rest of this tutorial. It's very simple. All right, if you have not done corner to corner, I'm going to show you how to do that now. It's really fun, and after you get used to it, it's pretty mindless. It makes great blankets and great washcloths. But I've discovered it also makes a great shawl. So give me 1 minute, we'll get our stuff together and we'll get started. Okay, so I will show you the kind of yarn that I am using today as well as the size hook. I'm using a 7mm hook. This particular yarn actually calls for a 6.5, but I wanted to do it a little bit looser so there'd be a little bit more drape. This is a heavy weight yarn. You can use any kind of yarn you want for this. The stitch is the same no matter what kind of yarn you use. So, you know, if you want something that's heavier, use a heavier weight yarn. If you want something that's like a light summer shawl, then, you know, use something like a fingering weight or even lace weight if you like to crochet with that. I personally don't. I like the heavier weight stuff. But yeah, I digress. Okay, let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is make your slip knot. And we are going to chain 6. I'm going to keep, again, this pretty loose because you are going to be stitching into your chains and it's easier when it's loose. Okay, so chain 6. 1, whoops, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we've got our 6 chains here. We are going to work a double crochet into the 3rd chain from the hook or from the knot. It depends on which way you want to count up. You can either count backwards, 1, 2, 3, or count up, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'm going to count up from the knot, 1, 2, 3, and work your double crochet into that chain. And into the next chain, you're going to work another double crochet. And into the last chain, you are going to work a double crochet. Okay, and that is actually our first row done. We are going to be working in like a triangle. It's going to grow out this way. So this is the very point. Now I want you to take notice of something. Here is our tail. And over here we've got this chain 3. Okay, it's kind of important to remember where that chain 3 is for the next row. Okay, let's start our next row. We are going to once again chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're going to do exactly what we did before. We are going to build into the 3rd chain. So 1, 2, 3 with double crochet. So double crochet into that 3rd chain. There's 1. And we're going to do it for the next 2 chains as well. Double crochet into the next. And a double crochet into the last one. Now this is going to seem very strange if you're used to working in rounds or in rows, like traditional rows. It's just going to seem weird. So when you get to the end of this, you're going to have this funny like bow tie looking thing. And that's going to seem very strange. But this is the key to working this corner to corner stitch. What we're going to do when we get to this point is we are going to grasp our first row and flip it up. Okay, so, and that's where it comes in handy to remember where your chain 3 space is. So here's our tail, and on the opposite side we have our chain 3 space. So we're going to flip that up so that our chain 3 space is next to our stitch on our hook. Okay, and from there what we're going to do is we're going to insert our hook into that chain 3 space and pull through a loop and slip stitch. So now we've got it up next to it. From here we're going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and we are going to work, that's 3 double crochets into the chain 3 space. This is going to be a chain 3 space for the next row, but we don't need to get ahead of ourselves. Let's just work our double crochets. So we've got 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and that's going to finish our second row. So when we look at it, we have row 1, and then these two make row 2. Every row we're going to increase by 1. So we've got 1, now we've got 2. Okay, well, let's start row 3. Chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And look at the top of your chain. We're going to count up 3 and double crochet into that stitch. So here's 1. Here's 2. And here's 3. If you've never done this before, it's going to feel a little strange and fiddly at first, but trust me, you get used to it quick. Okay, so now we're back to it looking kind of odd, right? We need to flip it up so that we can find our chain 3 space in our previous row, and we're going to work a slip stitch into it, chain 3, and then 3 double crochets into that same chain 3 space. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. And from here it's pretty easy. We don't have to flip anything in the next stitch. There's our chain 3 space right on top where it should be. So we're gonna slip stitch into it, chain 3, and 3 double crochets into that space. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. And that is the end of row 3. So we've got row 1, row 2, and as promised, we increased by 1. Row 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. For row 4, we're going to do the exact same thing. Chain 6, 4, 5, 6. Look at the top of your chain that you just made. Count up 3, 2, 3. Double crochet into that third chain and the next 2 chains. And once again, we're at that weird spot where you have to flip your stitches up. This is going to become second nature, I promise. So we're going to flip it over, find our chain 3 space in the previous row, and slip stitch into it. Chain 3, and 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space. Whoops, there's 1. There's 2. there's 3. Go on to the next stitch where that chain 3 space is, slip stitch into it, chain 3, and 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space. Go on to the next stitch and find that chain 3 space, slip stitch into it, chain 3, and 3 double crochets into the chain 3 space. And that finishes row 4. So we've got row 1, row 2, row 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, row 4. And as you can see, it's really the yarn that is making this very simple stitch look so pretty. The way the color changes throughout, it just is so pretty to me. I'm going to do one more row with you, and from there I'm going to leave you to it because it's really just the same as long as you want your scarf to be, or your shawl, excuse me, not your scarf. Okay, so let's chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Look at the top of your chain and count up 3. 1, 2, 3. Double crochet into the first chain. Double crochet into the next. This wool is sometimes a little bit tight. It doesn't want to separate for me. And double crochet into the next chain. Okay, here's where we come to our tricky flippy. I'm going to flip our work over so that we have our chain 3 space at the top, insert your hook, slip stitch, chain 3, and 3 double crochets into the chain 3 space. Slip stitch into the chain 3 space of the next stitch, chain 3, 3 double crochets into the chain 3 space. Slip stitch into the next chain 3 space, chain 3, 3 double crochets into the chain 3 space. Slip stitch into the next chain 3 space, chain 3, 3 double crochets into the next chain 3 space. Very good. That is the end of that row. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. Okay, so you're just going to continue in the same way, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you would like to leave a tassel at the end of your project, make sure that you leave enough yarn so that you can do that. Okay, I am going to continue working in this way, and I will come back and show you how to finish your shawl with the tassel at the end, and also how to tie off, which is really just very simple. You just tie off and then weave in your ends. So, all right, I'll see you back here in a little while. Okay, so I have completed my shawl as much as I'm going to. Now, obviously, I would want this to be a lot bigger than this if I were going to continue to make it a shawl. Honestly, this yarn's just a little bit too heavy for me, so I'm probably not going to keep this as a shawl, but I did want to show you how to finish this project. So it's very simple. When you get to the end, you're going to complete a row. So you're just going to keep this complete. I kind of liked the scalloped edge look. So that's the last thing you do. You just finish off your row and complete a slip stitch, and you would cut this yarn. I'm not going to cut the yarn because I'm going to save it, and pull it tight and weave in your end. And that's really it. That's all you do to finish your project. The last thing I want to show you is how to make the tassel. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to get some scrap yarn and use that to make the tassel. So hold on just one moment and I'll be right back. Okay, so one of the things that I like best about this little shawl is the tassel in the back. I just think it's cute. To me, it's just really a cute little touch. So I'm going to show you how to make the tassel. It's really, really easy. What you're going to need is your yarn, obviously, and scissors, and something to wrap your yarn around. So I made this tassel a little while ago, just to make sure I remembered how to do it. And I used just this little piece of wood that I had laying around. Now, it's best if you have something with just a little bit of a lip so that you can kind of work your scissors under. This was a little tricky for me. So this time I'm going to go ahead and use a CD case because there's just like a little ridge here where I'll have enough space to get my scissors, hopefully, underneath it. So what you want to do is you have your yarn and you're going to basically just wrap your yarn around whatever you're using. Now you could use a book, like a hardcover book, that would be perfect as well. Something though that's the size that you want. I am going to start, by just laying my yarn right on top here and just wrapping it as many times as I want, depending on how thick I want my tassel to be. Oh, my yarn is getting wedged over here. Okay, so I've wrapped that quite a few times, and I'm just going to end it down here and just, snip that off. Oops, I'm going to grab a hold of that with my scissors here. Okay, so I've snipped that off, and so I've got it wrapped around pretty tight. So the next thing I'm going to do is I want to slip my scissors under here and trim this, cut all of these pieces of yarn. So it is a little tricky if you don't have much of a lip. I don't have too much of a lip, but I think I'm going to be able to snip these pieces. And if they're a little messy, you can always, trim them off when you're done to neaten them up a little bit. Hard to get my scissors under there. I keep trying. Just be careful, don't cut yourself. There we go. Now I got my scissors underneath it. Okay. One last strand. Okay, there we go. All right, so now I've got all of my pieces of yarn here, and I'm going to keep them kind of folded in half like that. And I'm going to put a piece of yarn right inside there. So we kind of make it like a rainbow. There we go. And kind of fold that in half. I'm going to cut this yarn, and I'm just going to tie that up in a little knot so it keeps everything together. Okay. So now we've just got this little dangly thing, which is kind of cute, but it's nice to have it knotted in the middle too. So we have this little, kind of like the head of our tassel. Okay. So this is pretty simple. Just gonna lay that flat like that. Cut another piece of yarn, doesn't have to be too long. And lay our tassel right on top to the point where we want our little ball or our little head to be. And from there, you're just going to tie it just like so. And what I do is I flip it over and I tie it again going in the other direction. And I'm going to give it another good tie, nice and tight, but not so tight you break your yarn. Don't break your yarn. I'm going to give it one more tug, and then I'm just going to let it drop because those pieces are just going to blend right in. And like I said, you can trim it at the bottom to kind of tidy it up if you want to, because this is a little messy. You can make it a little more even. Like so. And there you have your tassel. And with these ends, you just, tie it onto your stitch. Just tie it right onto the bottom of your project. I've also seen some shawls where they have a tassel on either end, not just at the point in the back, but also on the ends. So that's really a cute look too. Okay, so there you go. That's how to make a tassel. Pretty simple. All right, guys, I hope you enjoy making this project. I'd love to see what you make. If you would like to go ahead and, join the Facebook group, Whippy Chick Crochet Connections on Facebook. And yeah, show me what you've made. I'd love to see it. All right, everybody, take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.